there are people who would want to experience the mistakes. There are people who would want to skip those mistakes.
And you're still going to make mistakes, even if you
Uh-huh.
have a mentor, because your experience is going to be way different than theirs. But they're going
Right.
to show you the things that they did to, like, say, hey, avoid these
Worked.
big red flags. You know,
Uh-huh.
so there's definitely mistakes to be made, but that's good, right? Failure is just a learning process. That's all it is. It's an experience, and it's a chance to learn. The only way to really fail is to stop and to quit. You know, and to stop doing what you're doing, stop trying to follow your dream. That's the only real failure, you know?
Right. Having a side gigs or side hustles sounds like a fairy tale, but what are the realities of having a side hustle or side gig?
Yeah, I mean, I still work, 60 hours a week or so. It's not easy. Again, I pretty much have my full-time gig, right? Teaching. And then I still work another, 20 to 25 hours a week on the side hustles. But it's also because I love them. They're my passion projects, right? They're my zones of genius, if you will. It's what I would love to do all day, every day for free if I could, But, I got bills to pay. I got to, put a roof over the head. I need the medical benefits, right? So it's a little bit of those golden handcuffs, right? So I have to work the full-time job, but, I also stay fulfilled and happy and enjoying what I do when I do the side hustles and the side gigs.
Right.
So, I'm not saying it's easy by any means. It takes work. It's hard, especially if you want to start it as a side gig and eventually turn it into your full-time gig and walk away from your 9 to 5. That'd be great, right? If people can do that, awesome.
Be your own boss.
Right. And that's the goal eventually, right? I don't know that I'll ever hit that point just because of the medical benefits, but I'm pretty happy right now. I'm content doing what I'm doing at the ratio that I'm doing it. So I wish I could say that it's an easy job, but it's not. It's a lot of work. So it's not just like, oh, you just make a course and then you put it online and you make all this money and it's easy peasy, right?
Right.
It's literally mailbox checks. No passive income doesn't exist. I'm not a fan of the word, but there are ways to make money while you sleep, right? Like, for instance, my courses sell sometimes while I'm asleep, right? And that's cool. But there was a lot of front end setup on those courses, and then there's ads you have to run to it, right? And there's work that still goes into an online business. People think it's easy. You just set up a course and sell it and you make all these millions of dollars. It doesn't work that way. There's still a lot of work that needs to be put into an online business, but it can be done. And believe me, I'm easily the dumbest smart guy you'll ever meet. So if I can do it, trust me, anybody can do it. It just takes persistency and just stick-to-itiveness, I call it, right? You just have to keep getting back up after you get knocked down. And it's going to happen. You're going to get knocked down a bunch, right? That's the only way I got through my EDD, right? They dragged me across the finish line kicking and screaming. But I had a high grit score, and I just kept getting up every time I got knocked down. And that's what entrepreneurship is, right? That's what being a business owner is. It's just figuring that stuff out and getting back up when you get knocked down.
All right. So as a last statement or a takeaway for our audience, something to take away from this episode, what's that something that you want them to really remember from what we have discussed today?
I think you got to just implement, do a little research. Pick a side gig or a side hustle you may be interested in. What's the worst case scenario? You go back to your 9 to 5 job, as a physical therapist, you have a great safety net. Try it. Experiment, taste things, just figure it out. See if it's something you think you could do or not. If not, pivot and go a different direction, but try things, implement. Just keep trying, keep, experimenting until you finally figure out something that can work for you. Because at the end of the day, we're all striving for, like I said, that time freedom. We want to be able to come and go when we want. We don't want a boss telling us when we can take off for vacation and stuff like that. We want to do whatever we want to do when we want to do it. Well, the only way to get to that point is to have some sort of financial freedom, right? And so again, working a 9 to 5 may or may not get you there. You could have, not had student loans and saved very wisely and retired early. But if you're like most of us and you're in that hamster wheel, that grind, right? That everyday grind, you got to figure a way out of that rat race, And like I said, I think side hustles and side gigs are the way to do that. And maybe they become a full-time gig. Who knows? That'd be great. But at the very least, you got to start somewhere. You got to start generating a little extra income and figure out how to make that bigger and bigger and bigger and, craft your own path.
Mhm. Right. Start and implement. Thank you
Yep.
again, Scott, for coming in the show.
Absolutely, man. Been a pleasure.
Mhm. What should be, or how does a therapist, or how does a therapist start in getting into this kind of business? What does one need to do?
Okay.
Mhm.
I think the main important thing is, instead of answering the question what,
Mhm.
the most important question to answer is why.
Mhm. Good.
Okay. Any therapist that wants to start a business, you have to know your why.
Mhm.
Why are you doing this? Why do you want to do this? Okay. So in my case, my why was, I want to spend time with our kids.
Mhm.
I want to spend time with my wife, and I want to take control of my time.
Mhm.
I didn't want to be dependent on a job, on a paycheck. Again, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But I personally, I don't want that. Okay. So that why was so strong for me
Mhm.
that I knew it will be very painful for me not to do or try something.
Mhm.
It pains me to see myself that I'm going to continue working for someone until I'm 65. If I paint that picture in my mind, I'm like, hell no, I don't want that.
Right.
I'm not going to work for someone until I'm 65 and start enjoying life. But then that's just me. Okay. Everybody's different.
Mhm.
If that's your plan, I respect that. If that's the majority's plan, I totally respect that. Please don't get mad at me, guys. I'm just saying it's not what I want. I want to enjoy life, while I still can.
Mhm.
So with that, I set out to look for what business can give me that lifestyle.
Mhm.
So it's a lifestyle question. Okay. What kind of lifestyle do I want, and what business can I build to fund that lifestyle?
Mhm.
Okay. So with that decision that I did back in 2003, I'm telling you, Johan, I never regretted it, because I never had to ask for a PTO. We didn't miss our kids' activities in school.
Mhm.
My wife and I, we would go fishing or watch a movie in the middle of the day without asking for permission. I would do anything again. I would do it again. If I'm given a choice, will I do it again? The answer is yes, I'll do it again.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, so it starts with your why. So guys,
Mhm.
if you're listening to this podcast, I want you to dig in. What is your why? Why would you start a business? Because money is a tool. Okay. It's not, don't answer it, oh, because I want to make a lot of money. But why?
Mhm.
Why do you want to make a lot of money? What is the reason behind that? You
Mhm.
have to dig deeper, because money is a tool. It's neutral, right? So once you find that why, then you will now determine, what do I do next?
Mhm.
Okay. One of the things in my videos that I explain is the cash flow quadrant. Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay. So the cash flow quadrant, it's from the book by Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. Have you heard of that book?
Yes. Mhm.
So one of the books he wrote along with other authors is the cash flow quadrant. Okay. So imagine this is a quadrant. On the left side of the quadrant, top left, is the E quadrant.
Mhm.
We call that the employee quadrant. Okay. 90 to 99% of therapists, or even any industry, belong to this quadrant. What is the E quadrant, or the employee quadrant? We work for someone, we trade our time, we get paid.
Mhm.
Okay. Now below that, on the bottom left, is the S quadrant, which is the self-employed quadrant. On the self-employed quadrant, you're the boss, but you still trade your time.
Mhm.
An example in our industry is, let's say you do cash base by yourself. Let's say you do wellness program by yourself. You do pelvic health by yourself. You are the product.
Mhm.
It means if you stop working, no money is coming in. Okay. As a self-employed, I may offend someone by saying this, but it's the truth. It's still not a business. It's a job. That's why self-employed You're just an employee, by yourself, right? You just decided to call the shots. Okay. So the common thing between employee and self-employed is you're trading your time for money. If you don't put in the time, no money, right? There's no money. Now, on the right side of the quadrant, on the top right, is the B quadrant, which stands for business owner quadrant. On the business owner quadrant, you hire people, you work with people, or they work for you. It's a combination. Okay. On that quadrant, on the business owner quadrant, you have a system that creates money. Okay. That it puts you in a situation that should you decide not to work, you still can make money. Okay. And the last bottom right is the I quadrant, which is the investor quadrant, which means you have enough money laying around, you want to invest it. These are like the Shark Tanks, the angel investors. Okay. So the reason I'm pointing this out is it's important for you to know what quadrant are you in right now and where do you want to be. So as therapists, most of us are workers. We are in the S quadrant, most of us, right? So the question now is, on the E quadrant, employee. Yeah. Do you want to stay in the E quadrant as an employee? Keep trading your time. If you want to stay there, again, I respect that, to each his own. Stay there. That's fine. But if you want to move into the B quadrant to be a business owner where you have money coming in, even if you decide not to work, then you have to do something to be in the B quadrant. You have to have a business. Okay. And what is the true test of a business? Okay. Because a lot of therapists get confused by this, I have an LLC, I have a business. Okay. The next question is, who's doing the work? I am. And it's not a business. It's a job. Even a high school kid can get an LLC. It's easy. Just go to legalzoom.com, less than $100. You have an LLC. But does that kid have a business? No, it's just a name. The true test of a business is this. Is money coming in? Should you decide not to work? If the answer is yes, you have a business. If the answer is no, you don't have a business.
What is that one thing that you want our audience to take away from this episode?
Good question. If you're listening to this and you are on the fence of starting a business, but you're scared, you're nervous, you're not sure of yourself, I just want to tell you that's normal. No person who went into business were sure of themselves. You have to take risk. Okay. In my case, I evaluated the risk. What's the worst thing that can happen? And this is what most lawyers will ask. And I'm not a lawyer, but it's a very good question. What's the worst thing that can happen? If the business didn't work, I still had my license. I can still look for a job, right? What if it worked? In my case, it worked. And it's still working for the past 18 years. What if I gave into that fear of starting a business and never did it? I would still be working for someone for the past 18 years. But again, I respect everyone who wants to do that, but that's not what I wanted. I would have been miserable. You see what I'm saying? So give yourself a shot. Go for it. If you have that fear or nervousness, that's normal. Especially as immigrants, we had that fear when we first, had the news that, okay, your visa got approved, you're going to the US. What? Right? So you had that fear, but you went through it anyway, right? I mean, for those who are local in the US, when you first got admitted into PT school, OT school, or SLP school, you got the letter, congratulations, you got accepted in the program. You were so excited, but then you were nervous. What? Am I going to finish this with all the student loans and everything? Gosh, but you went through it anyway.
Right.
Okay? My advice is tap into that determination. Tap into that, guts. Okay? Tap into that and give yourself a shot because you deserve it. You deserve to give yourself a shot and see what happens. Okay. The worst thing that can happen is at the end of your life, you're like, what if? Okay. I would tell you a quote from Michael Jordan, and this is probably, a cliche. He said, I can accept failing. Everybody fails at something,
Mhm.
but I cannot accept not trying.
Oh, that's good.
And he's one of the best, if not the GOAT of
Mhm.
basketball.
Right.
And if you guys don't know, Michael Jordan got cut on his first tryout in his first year. He didn't make the team in North Carolina.
Oh, really?
He
I
had to
didn't know
wait
that.
1 year.
Mhm.
He had to wait 1 year to try out again.
Mhm.
Had he given up after the first cut, there's no Michael Jordan.
Right. Right.
He failed to make the cut the first year, but he waited 1 year, got better, and the rest is history, as you all know. So,
Mhm.
in other words, guys, keep trying. Never give up. Give yourself a shot.
Mhm.
And if you just want a kick in the pants, you want someone to encourage you, give me a call. You have my
Right.
cell phone.
Yeah. Reach out to Bert. He gave out his cell phone. You can check out his website as well for it. Yeah. Thank you very much, Bert, for this time.
Is there a difference if you're writing for a textbook and writing in a scientific journal? And how different is that?
Yeah, it's a little bit different in that mas ano when you're writing for textbooks, I feel that it's a little bit more free for you to to put your point of view, your perspective on it.
Mhm.
Kasi you're also adding your opinion, your clinical pearls, your
Mhm.
tapos yung what the expert opinions are.
Mhm.
Although you want it evidence-based as well. You want your book to reflect current practice, right?
Mhm.
And then, so one good thing I learned from my two mentors, Catherine Goodman and Darcy Unfred, is that you always have to look in the future,
Mhm.
and you always have to push the envelope talaga. So,
Mhm.
you know, they're great in that sense because they're really able to, ano, almost predict what the future is because
Mhm.
they have really good insight.
Mhm.
So, you know, your one foot is in the present, and then when you're writing for textbooks, one foot is in the present, and one foot is in looking at the future.
Mhm.
Pag ganun. Many people don't know, and I think this is also important to note, that textbooks are also somewhat peer-reviewed.
Mhm. Oh,
Um,
okay.
Kasi sabi nung iba, ay, textbooks lang yan, ano lang yan. It's only the view or opinion of the writer, which is not totally true kasi good textbooks undergo peer reviews then by colleagues. So either the publishing company hires or invites people to read the chapters
Mm.
and then provide feedback, or you actually solicit feedback from peers
Mhm.
and other people whom you don't know
Mhm.
to give you really honest feedback about the chapters as well.
Mhm.
And so I enjoy writing textbooks a little bit more because you have the freedom
Mhm.
to do that, and you have to you have the freedom to inject your voice and your perspective in the chapter. Sa writing for scientific journals, um it's somewhat to me it's somewhat a game too,
Mhm.
right? Because you have to configure your manuscript to fit what the journal is expecting. So
Mhm.
it has to do with the aims and scope of the journal.
Mhm.
So para ma-accept yung publication mo, yung paper mo, you kind of have to configure the writing to fit what they're looking for.
Right.
Number one. Number two, I mean, it's heavily peer reviewed, which is really good, right? Because you have people who are supposedly experts in your field reviewing the manuscript and providing feedback. If your main goal is to just publish, right? Sometimes you might get critiques or feedback na that would make you maybe water down a little bit what you're saying
Mhm.
para lang ma-publish. So you play that game too. You know, there's that dance in that game. And so if your goal is to just publish, which it is, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes you have to play that game para ma-publish ka. And most peer reviewers are really good, but some of them can be also ruthless. I've had my fair share of rejections. Yung mga iba masakit talaga. Siyempre, mo yun because you put your time, energy, money,
Right.
right? Convictions on it to just say, this is just nothing. This is a piece of whatever. You know, it really hurts as well.
As in diretsong ano.
Meron mga ibang ganun. Pero like I would tell people who would peer review, you have to do it with kindness, right? Because you don't really know the perspective of that other person, right?
Right.
You might not know. So you have to always do it with kindness. You can make pointed critiques, but do it with grace and humility as well. And so that's the way. Most of the naman is like that. One thing though is, and I've heard this with collaborators from the Philippines as well. So I don't know if they kind of see it with the style of writing or whatever, or maybe it's not totally blinded, but they would always mention something about the manner of writing, which irritates me sometimes.
What do you mean?
Because like it may sinasabi nila, it may not, you may want ito yung usual na line, you may want a native speaker to review your article, to and suggest edits or something like that. So ewan ko, and I guess I come in with the perspective na we write really well. As Filipinos, we can write well. We're good in English. We've learned English, right? Well, I guess maybe because we have a little Filipino slant in our English. Maybe that's what it is, right? Pero you see that pattern happening, and minsan nakakairita lang siya. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. It has not happened lately, pero when I was beginning or when I'm collaborating with someone who's from the Philippines or other countries, ganun, usually merong comments na ganun.
Medyo ano din pala, no? Kind cutthroat nga na you should have like a thick skin when you're trying to publish yourself and submitting your articles.
Yeah. And I guess I've developed a thick skin. Pero mahirap din it's really hard to kind of get those feedback, especially if you've invested a lot of your time and energy on it, right? So if you want to publish, you have to do it, right? You have to play the game. You have to do the dance.
Right.
Yeah.
For those who wanted to start their writing career, probably wanted to go to submit some articles in scientific journals. How should they start? Where should they begin?
I think that's an excellent question. So let's, I guess we can talk about within the context of PTs, right?
Right.
So I still firmly believe, especially in the Filipino context, that the best way at this point in time for you to contribute to the scientific literature is to write descriptions of patient encounters, i.e. case reports to start with. So kasi it allows other people to learn from your experience, because you're describing a patient encounter that you did. Maybe you did something special. Maybe you did a technique that is special and you applied it in a different setting or a different population or a different condition, and it worked, right? And so I would hope that people write that for publication. Number one, it helps our colleagues to learn that, that worked for this person, and I have a patient that presents with something that's similar, so maybe I'll try it, right? Kung that wouldn't happen if it's not disseminated through publications. Number two, what's nice about it is that you're actually not reinventing the wheel, because you already did it. The only thing that's missing is putting it on paper, and I guess having someone mentor you on how to write it, right? But it's it's doable.
Mhm.
I don't think it's doable to yung at this point in time, right? Especially if we're talking, I guess even here, right, within the Filipino context, so practice in the Philippines, to do RCTs,
Uh-huh.
right? Kasi number one, walang pera, walang
Mm.
funding. Bureaucracy is just so hard at this
Mhm.
point in time. I hope people prove me wrong with
Mhm.
that. But from my experience,
Mhm.
even at UP, mahal ko yung eskwela, pero bureaucracy for getting ethics review is really quite challenging.
Mhm.
I hope they make it easier, not easier, well, same standards, but a little bit more efficient. Ba?
Mhm.
And that kind of hinders to the research process. So hindi masyadong feasible
Mhm.
sa regular therapy. So write your descriptions of patient encounters. Submit it for presentations kasi it's easy. That's a little bit easier. So baby steps. So maybe you'll start with a poster presentation. It's kind of fun to present posters. I
Right.
think when people get into poster presentations, it's kind of addicting actually,
Mhm.
because you meet people, you get to network on
Mhm.
it, and then so you can do podium after that. Yung sinasabi ko nga, pigain niyo muna, right? Pigain niyo yung publication. So do the case report, present it, and then publish it
Mhm.
as a case report. Tapos pag ka na sa case report, well, maybe you'll do a case series. So, a series of patients with the similar condition, you did similar treatments,
Mhm.
and then you compare,
Mhm.
right? Something like that. Or you do marami single subject designs.
Mhm.
So there is really a lot of ways to do that.
As a takeaway, yung pabaon natin for our audience, gusto nating dali nila in their practice, what is one thing that you want them to take away from our conversation tonight?
That I would hope that ito pa sinabi ko sa Ratatouille. So anyone can cook, right? When you think about the Ratatouille movie, right? Anyone can write, anyone can publish. And believe me when I say that, right? Anyone can publish, and anyone I know has something that's worth publishing if you just get the right mentor to be able to help you.
Yeah, again, thank you very much, Dudan.
Salamat. Thank you for the time.